2023, and I'm calling the regular Belle Plaine City Council meeting into session. It should be noted that those in attendance are Councilperson Mary Peck, Councilperson Judy Schlesselman, Councilperson Lyle Morrow, Councilperson Mitch Malcolm, Councilperson Garrett Landit, City Administrator Steve Beck, Assistant City Attorney Gage Kinsler, City Clerk Sandra Walton. That's it, I guess. I would like to remind all in attendance, including the council and staff, to please shut off your cell phones or put them on the mute mode. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item number 4, approval of council minutes of October 18th, 2023, receipt and filing of the minutes from the September 26th, 2023 meeting of the Belle Plaine Community Library Board of Trustees, and bills received. Is there any discussion on that? We'll just note that there's a new list of, updated list of the bills that has quite a few additions for today, so just handed out tonight.
The AC unit and repair of W.R. Walton, that was already
Hail Mary.
paid for. Okay, yeah, that's what that.
If there's nothing, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda council minutes of October 18th, receiving and filing of the minutes from the September 26th meeting of the Belle Plaine Community Library Board of Trustees, and bills received.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Well, it seems there's no residents here unless Jay has some comments. Move on from number 5 to number 6. Discuss for possible approval contract with Midwest Demolition Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $179,950 for the Herring Hotel demolition project.
It has been approved by legal, forwarded to them, they have signed it, now it's our turn. And then it's all forwarded to them, ready to go. They've actually provided a tentative schedule. I'm pretty sure the contract goes until what, 1st of February,
Yeah.
but they're looking to have it down middle of November and everything hauled out by 10th, 11th of December. Obviously, probably barring things like weather.
So we talked about this last week. This is just for us to approve the signed contract is all.
Giving you permission to sign it.
Do you guys need any help getting anything out of it? I don't know how big the pile is, but I don't think so.
John thought about 2 pickup loads for sure. And then he wasn't sure what else we might want out of those front lobby rooms, the writing room and the parlor or whatever. He said he thought he didn't go through it in great
There are a
extent, but there's
couple of
like,
chairs, honestly, but most everything else is really pretty ratty or,
yeah,
I mean,
it would need to be restored before it was.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he and I looked at stuff and I really didn't see anything that historically would,
Okay.
and, you know, functional, whether or not any people would use it. There's maybe a couple that we looked at. All the rest of them are either torn or broken legs, and it's just, you know, it's a hoarder's, you know, joy, but outside of that, it's really not worth.
Steve, could you refresh the memory for us, for the public, of where our funding is coming to take this building down?
Yeah. And so after the derecho, we received $50,000 from our umbrella insurance policy. And we had used some of that money to stabilize the building post derecho. And again, a couple times since, as the building has deteriorated. So some of it is coming from there, and then the balance will be from trying to blank yeah, ARPA. I was trying to, people keep telling me to not use acronyms, and I'm trying to remember what the heck that stands for. I can't recall off the top of my head.
Isn't it America?
Rescue
Rescue
Plan,
Plan.
yeah, Act.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'd take a motion.
I'll move to approve the contract with Midwest Demolition Contractors, Inc. in the amount of $179,950 for the Harrington Hotel demolition project.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Agenda item number 7, discuss for possible approval a business incentive grant, commercial interior grant for Valhalla Hatchets at 805 12th Street, Belle Plaine. And just in case anybody has any questions, I brought a copy of the packet that describes that.
Thank you.
And this is the first time I think we've seen a request for interior, upper story living type work. But I didn't really see anything in there that would preclude this from being classified as that.
Well, the upper story would not necessarily be a commercial space, but it is in a commercial building in a commercial district, and that's our intent, to improve everything there. So-
Yeah, and the first thing is eliminate deterioration of buildings in the downtown and commercial.
Mhm.
So that really covers that, because I know that was our concern. This isn't really a business, but
Mhm.
it's all encompassing in that whole building. And I think if that helps keep that building stable and secure, then I think it meets.
But it would in the sense of an apartment is a business, correct, Lyle? Would that be correct? That if you rent properties, that is a business? Okay.
I was thinking more if it was like an Airbnb, that wouldn't be a business, whether or not the actual apartment, but I think it meets.
Mhm.
I think it meets for the downtown and what we're trying to accomplish.
I know Mary had asked me to bring fund balances where we're at with business incentive. As of today, there's $23,251 in that fund. We've been getting roughly $2,100 a month into that fund, which is a little more than actually we budgeted for, which is good. Not that it can't fall off, lost always can, but, so given the amount of money that we budgeted to receive this year, there would be like $30,000 available for the year. And if we stay on pace that we've been on, be closer to 40. We have spent about half of what we budgeted for the year, but there are more funds there if you wanted to approve a budget amendment for more funds for this year.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't close to running out of any funds.
We're good right now.
Thanks for bringing that information.
We don't know of any other grant applications that are out there yet for this year, correct?
None that we don't.
You gave them one more.
There was one that came in this early week or last week to look over.
I don't know, you just gave it to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Early this week. So that'll be on the next agenda.
Thanks.
So if everything looks in order on this, Steve, you've gone over it and
Yeah, Sandy and I both went over it, and I agree with the council that fits into the program, and the the estimate that they have is 13,000. So 1/3 of that would be $4,333.33.
Kyle does a good job and stuff, so.
so at the bottom of this one, we had. Yeah, 433, okay. If there's no further discussion on this, is there a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve a business incentive grant for Valhalla Hatchets at 805 12th Street, Belle Plaine, Iowa for $4,333.33.
Use the word estimated.
Estimated.
Only because the way the grant is written is it's 1/3 of actual costs, and
Okay.
right now we're working off an estimate. So.
Yeah, that's why it's a weird,
Off of the estimated amount.
correct. Would be great. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Agenda item number 8, discuss for possible approval a business incentive grant, commercial interior/exterior and area acquisition assistance grant for Kathy and Bruce Wisebeam for the building at 710 12th Street, Belle Plaine.
It's the old. That's a
Grandma
small
Butts.
one. Yep, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Steve, did you have anything you wanted to add here?
I have only been able to talk to these folks over the phone, and I wasn't able to meet with them last time they were in town. I think everything that we have here is in accordance with the intentions of the grant.
The only observation I had was I noticed that they checked exterior grant, interior grant, and area acquisition assistance on the 3.
Yeah.
I could not find where you've ever granted both an interior and an exterior grant at the same time. I have seen them in conjunction with the acquisition grants,
Yeah,
Where
we've
you've done-
discussed that before.
where you've done.
It's in that packet there. And we corrected that a few years ago. It's one or the other, but not both for interior, exterior.
Right. And
Well, I think the intent probably here was that they're spending so much on the interior and so much on the exterior that, you know, whichever way it goes, they're going to, I hope they understand that.
Yes.
It's the other.
I was not able to talk with them until after I did not have their contact information until after I received the grant application. So I walked them through that they would only be able to qualify for $4,500 maximum.
Right.
And she's like, well, what if we split part of it for the front and part of you're only going to get $4,500 max for the interior and or exterior. you qualify
For a year.
for
Mhm.
a calendar
For
year,
funds.
for a calendar year. And I said, is there any way you can hold off on your facade for, and she's like, no, we just want to get it going and get it done. I was like, all right, that's fine. I just want to, you have to wait a calendar year until the next improvements.
And
If you want to
also,
get grant money.
But do you agree that they've been able to do the acquisition with one or the other?
I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
I could find evidence of that. I just couldn't find where we did both interior and.
People have
exterior.
applied and just checked everything,
Okay.
but
And also, under the interior, the listing of the work and the itemized list they have here, they have at 26,866.75. That is certainly enough expense to qualify for their 1/3 or the 4,500, but there is some work that has already been done, which would not qualify, but there is enough that does qualify that they can get that. Just as long as they understand the provisions of the grant, or the work cannot be started before the application date, and this was.
Yeah, what's the date on?
The application date was September 7th, I believe.
Yeah.
I think they're highly motivated to get it going, and
Well,
Like, so they got plenty of it.
Yes, right, plenty to get the full amount.
yeah, I saw somebody was working on the brick this week.
Mhm.
And some barricades set up, so.
That would be great to have that building refurbished and put to good use.
Yeah. They're doing a lot of work on it. It will be. So, any further discussion on this?
it's just our recommendation that the council approve $243.75 for the acquisition, and then up to $4,500 for interior.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve business incentive grant for Kathy and Bruce Weinstein for the building at 710 12th Street, Belle Plaine.
For the estimated,
For the estimated 243, what'd you call it?
243, the acquisition,
Acquisition,
243.75.
and then up to 4,500. Are we gonna call it interior or exterior?
Interior.
is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
It's good to see them come to town
Yeah.
after reading their business model from all the other locations.
I've seen where they are in Cedar Rapids and Hiawatha.
It's cool. I didn't catch who was the second on that.
Garrett.
Oh,
Garrett.
thanks.
Agenda item number 9. A, discuss for possible passage the first reading of ordinance 23-7, an ordinance for set-off program provisions.
So we keep trying to get this past the state of Iowa. The only thing that changed on that end is a different agency is managing this program at the state level. But the new department doesn't like the wording on a lot of, Belle Plaine is not, by far, not the only town that's having difficulty getting this approved. To the extent that our Iowa codification that we do our entire code book with has decided to write the ordinance themselves and get it approved by the state, because so many towns are having trouble getting this in place. Right now, we cannot send anything to income offset or offset set off, like that's how they changed it.
That was the biggest
Now
change.
it's set off. Right now, we can't send anything to them because effective November 1st, it is being handled by the new agency. And as far as they're concerned, we have no memorandum of understanding that's been approved. So there's nothing wrong with our memorandum of understanding, but this ordinance, there may be one more step yet, but this was their recommended first step is we pass this ordinance, then we'll try sending everything into them again. There may be one more step if they have to have a resolution of something or another, but we're just trying to follow Iowa Codification's recommendations because they're trying to help everybody out. This is the first step. They wrote this ordinance, put it in the format that they want to see it in, that it will go into our code book. So we're just trying to get things through as quickly as possible so we can hopefully get on board before people start doing taxes in January.
So in a nutshell, could you define the set-off program for the public? So they know what we're talking
So the
about.
setup program is if you have not paid bills, primarily, water sewer bills, potentially parking. Those are the most often ones that
Snow
we
and
send.
mowing.
Could be, no, because most of the time snow and mow gets applied straight to the property owner. We can send this to income offset or the set-off program, which if you get any type of income tax refund from Iowa, or if you have gambling winnings, we can lay claim to that to pay off some of the debt that you have. So we have to have things in place that proves that, one, we had the right to bill for whatever debt is that we're trying to collect, and two, that we have the right to collect whatever it is that hasn't been paid. So that's where this is trying to help us out. Put it in writing and put it in place.
And there's like a queue that we get in with
Yeah, so once we improve our process, then we put a person's name, their social security number, and an amount. And then the state watches every time they have something that they are going to pay out to an individual. It looks for that social, and if it finds one, it considers a hit, and it would notify us that, hey, if you are still trying to collect this debt this month, the amount of money is available. And then there's a whole process there too. You have to send a letter letting them know that it's your intent to withhold some of that money or all of it, depending on how much it is. They have 15 days. If they say, I don't know that, or I've already paid that or whatever, and they have a right to a hearing with the council if they disagree. It's the whole process.
and we've talked about this before. We just directed you guys to come up with a memorandum of understanding, and did we?
And we did that, and you approved it.
Approve the
And we
previous
sent
one.
it, and it's not that they have a problem with memorandum of understanding, but they say we haven't yet defined or proven that things are qualifying debt. And when you ask them what do you do to prove that it's qualifying debt, their answer is, well, you have to prove that it's qualifying debt. But what do you need? Something that shows it's qualifying debt. Vicious circle, So that's why Iowa Codification Step 10 is like, okay, let's talk turkey here. What exactly do you want? So that's what some of this is helping us through.
So we'll try again.
Try again.
So I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve passage first reading of ordinance 23-7, ordinance for set-off program provisions.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Passes 5-0. And then 9B, discuss for possible approval waiving the second reading of ordinance 23-7 and ordinance for setup program provisions. So this is just to come.
Place by the end of November. So the next meeting, we would have the third and final reading, but that way spans at least a couple of meetings.
Right. Otherwise, we have to do a roll call vote and all that special stuff. So if there's no further discussion on this, I need a motion for 9B.
I'll move to approve the possible waiving of the second reading for ordinance 20.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Good luck. Well, see you
Hopefully
next,
this is it.
see you next meeting. Agenda item number 10, discuss for possible approval renewal of a special Class C retail alcohol license with Sunday sales for the Lincoln Cafe, 1214 8th Avenue, Belle Plaine, Iowa. Any problems, chief?
No.
Okay.
When the Sunday brunch crowd doesn't get out of hand with mimosas. Glad to hear it.
Any questions on this? If not, I need a motion.
I move to approve the special Class C retail alcohol license with Sunday sales for the Lincoln Cafe.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, Gary?
Oh, boy, that was close.
Wow.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
I'll let you know.
I'm jumping on O'Leary's. You guys aren't good.
Agenda item number 11, discuss for possible approval renewal of Class C retail alcohol license with Sunday sales for O'Leary's Office Tap LLC, 825 12th Street, Belle Plaine, Iowa. We gotta ask the chief first.
No horses up front. They go to the back now.
All right, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve renewal of Class C retail alcohol license with Sunday sales for O'Leary's Office Tap.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
There you go.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Oh, we're moving right along. Agenda item number 12, Committee of the Whole. Sandy and I talked about this on the way back from Vinton. And I'll tell you about the Vinton trip, a couple items down the road here. But downtown overnight parking's come up as a discussion issue with the advent of more upper story living coming on Main Street and so forth. And the fact that right now we have most of the parking spaces cannot be occupied between 2 and 5 in the morning, 2 and 5 a.m. And just wanted to bring it up as a discussion point. Do we really need to have no parking between 2 and 5 on Main Street?
Well, I think it's fantastic it was brought up because I actually emailed Mayor Fish at one point to talk about this. In the communities that I go to, Animos, where I used to work, and other places, if they have anything like that, no parking, they usually either designate it as like maybe the third Wednesday of the month. You don't park there from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. because there is no street cleaning going on at 2 in the morning. So just different varying things that I've seen. I've also seen alternating sides, one side one day, one side the next
Odd day
day.
even, odd
Yes.
side, even side.
Yep.
I like that idea just because if you have to where you don't have any restrictions and you have cars that just are sitting there and don't get moved.
Yes.
That way, if you do the one side, the other, then you know people at least have to move their vehicles.
Always at least seen some kind of parking, but not to what we have, to where it's every day from this time period to this time period.
What would we do about the snow removal part of it though?
When there's a snow emergency, then
Snow
there's no
emergency.
parking.
Just to definitely make that well known.
Why was it ever set that way? Cause were we cleaning streets every day from 2 to 5?
No, never. I've been opposed to this for a long
My
time.
guess is probably there was abuse of people just sitting cars there forever, and so that's one way of eliminating it. It would be a guess.
I believe that I was told years ago they did that because the main street was hustling and bustling and was full of businesses, and they didn't want to have cars sitting there, basically taking up customer parking. Now we don't really have the hustling and bustling, but if
No,
we
but-
encourage people to live there, you know, because I've been getting messages on our Facebook account for, well, most of the summer, basically, from at least one resident who has been ticketed, and you know, she complains that, you know, well, these vehicles were parked overnight, you know, so on and so forth. Anyway, I mean, I know over the years that ordinance has just been a head scratcher. It's like, why are we even doing it? Why are we punishing people for parking there to live there? Why are we punishing people that made a good decision to drive home from the bar?
Right.
Right? You know, to me, it's just an antiquated ordinance and just needs to be completely redone. And I kind of agree with what Garrett was saying, you know, the odd even thing maybe, but I also believe in keeping it simple. If you start alternating it, it's going to confuse people, I'm afraid. And I mean, unless it's very, very well, you know, publicized.
Well, you usually have signage like Iowa City does that.
If you can come up with signage that would show that, sure, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
How many parking tickets do, I guess, we issue a month?
A month,
Or-
yeah, I mean, it's not a high amount.
Well, even if you decided to eliminate it, it's not that you can't change again if it seems to be.
Abused.
It can be treated like
Too
any
far
other
in
street
one
in
way.
town, you know, vehicles aren't supposed to sit more than 24 hours on any public street.
Right.
You know, so if we get a complaint about a vehicle, hey, a vehicle's been down here, you know, for a week, we have the ability to mark tires, monitor it. If it's still sitting there, we can hook it and tow it. We would do that in the, you know, in the non-business hours, though, obviously. You know, they can be ticketed for 24-hour parking. Snow emergency, same thing. If you have a snow emergency, there's vehicles that are sitting there overnight that shouldn't be, hook them, you know. And we'll make that a priority since it is the downtown area.
So if you're at an apartment, maybe you would have the ability to park like one primary vehicle on Main Street. And if you have another vehicle, maybe city parking lot. So if you have a family, so you don't have like each apartment having 2 or 3 cars up there or something like
Yeah,
that. Something to
I think
consider.
you want to set it to where, you know, you don't have 20 cars sitting there every day, but
The state would love to see us fill the upper story with living.
Right.
And that's,
But I certainly appreciate someone who has an apartment. What a drag to have to try to
Right.
find a
Yeah.
place to park
Mhm.
downtown when it's cold or you're trying to get upstairs.
Sure.
You know, I totally appreciate that.
Just from a legal perspective, though, I understand where you're coming from, Steve, but I don't want to get in the process of who's a resident and what's their primary vehicle.
understood.
Are they a visitor? Are they on the lease? So I would just keep it as simple as possible.
But-
I mean, the 24-hour parking kind of eliminates that if that's what they're doing.
But I think it's worth it, like you said, that if this really gets abused and there's, you know, half the main street's covered with cars and
Yeah.
We could
the merchants
revisit
are
it.
upset and when there's no place to park. Because when I come home at 5 o'clock, honestly, if the Spotlight Studio's got a bunch of kids and, you know, the Valhalla's got a group there, Main Street's full. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's full all the way down. And if there's theater starts opening up and having movies at night, I mean, the Main Street does have moments when, but you know, that's usually all done and everyone's packed up and gone by 10. So I think if anyone's wanting to have a car there, if they've got an apartment and they get home late, then they've got a place they can park.
Well, the Moore building will have, I think, 4 apartments is
Yeah.
what they're planning on doing. So
Would they have parking in back too, or as well?
Yeah.
To a certain
do
degree.
they?
They'll just
They
have to
have a
figure out how to
couple.
get the people in and out the back,
Okay.
because right now they would have to come in through the front, and that would even be longer.
Yeah, no,
So, but yeah,
But
yeah,
if you think about along here,
Mhm.
yeah,
there's no behind
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for most of those buildings.
And I lived in the Airbnb here for a few months, and it was like, it would be really nice. But thankfully I had a parking spot right here. But was able to look at it through another lens because I had that experience.
So do we think that completely taking away the restrictions, or, I mean, what are we thinking on that?
Would you replace the ordinance gauge or rewrite the one we've got?
Yeah, we'd rewrite what we have, but I mean, like I said, from a legal perspective, the simpler we make it, the easier it is to enforce in court.
I'd say just take it away.
Take it away and just do the 24-hour parking like the chief had
Yeah.
said?
If it becomes an issue, then revisit
And
it.
then snow removal, emergency removal, so.
Well, I will edit this and bring a first reading draft back to you guys next meeting.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And we can even have a sheet so people who are living on Main Street can get like a fact sheet
Oh,
so
absolutely.
that they know exactly what the rules are, so they can't say, I didn't know.
Mhm.
So if we have, parking on Main Street, here's what you need to know.
I assume that's already a emergency snow route down Main Street, isn't it?
We can, what you're
Well,
saying,
county falls
post it
under
in
emergency
businesses and
zone.
everything.
So when that-
That's a
When
great
that goes
idea.
out,
Just so people know,
Yeah.
so that there's not blind.
It's every
spots.
street.
Saying 24 hours, you need to,
There's a,
even if it's
there's a-
one stall
a
over, just
section-
move your car.
Well, maybe we're making, just even making signs.
on snow emergency that specifically talks about
parking on city streets.
downtown. So I'll have to read back through that and see if any of that needs to be edited a bit.
Right.
I think we're just gonna have to be really careful to enforce the 24-hour. And
Yeah.
because if it isn't, then it can cause a lot of problems, and you've got business owners complaining because that car hasn't moved for 3 days.
And it'll be a lot of that'll require business owners to report that,
Right.
because we're not gonna go out proactively just mark tires just because we don't
Yeah,
have to do
no.
that. It's not like old days where the meter maids that would go. Most of that anyway is complaint driven. We get a complaint that's been sitting for, days or weeks or whatever on the street. We'll go mark the tires, we'll check it out ourselves and boom.
We can
You're
send
totally-
letters to the downtown businesses too, and let them know
Sure.
that, this change is taking place and
Yeah, I think that's.
feel free to,
I think
don't
that's
feel like
probably
you're
proactive
complaining.
of us is to make sure the merchants are aware and let them have their take too on it so that,
I agree.
not everyone parks all right in front of the pharmacy and now there's no place for someone to get in and out of. The way you could get around that, if that develops a problem like we did with Cornerstone Apothecary, we make one spot where there's a 15-minute parking all the time. That way, there's always a spot in front of the pharmacy for someone who's a little older. Not to say that, there's going to be an issue, but there could be. And if there is, then we have that option to where we can pick a couple, 3 spots in front of businesses at 15-minute parking only. That way they can go in, get their business, get out, and then that spot's open.
Well, in the past, we had a request it was mainly for the east side of Main Street for overnight parking, and we designated different places on the side streets, the streets, and then over here too, and on 8th Avenue. It was on 9th Avenue, sorry, not the
Yeah,
streets.
right by the museum. Yep.
And, we had a number of people come in and request this, and Brian Baumgartner was one of them that was in favor of it. Except then he came back later because some of the neighbors were parking over, just parking there, and then his customers weren't able to use the spot. So we may have some pushback at some point in time, but I think it'll work out.
I really appreciate the council considering this because I think it'll really help us improve the downtown nightlife and also the upper story living opportunities.
Most definitely.
And I really think there's plenty of spots on there where if we have to designate in a couple of businesses where it's an hour parking only, I don't think that that'll be that big of a headache for anybody to do that. And then that would alleviate issues for businesses. So there is a place in front of their building, but I can't see that 100 cars are going to park on Main Street overnight.
Right.
If there is, I want to be invited to the party.
Anything else on this?
Thanks for bringing this up.
Mhm,
No
Most
problem.
definitely.
Agenda item number 13, city administrators report, projects update.
All right. I talked to Greg Brennan, and the data that they collected at the well field from the electrical resistivity has kind of pinpointed some drilling targets that they've identified from what he called the geophysical profile. And once those are finalized, then we're going to be able to put in some monitoring well sites, and they're hoping we can do it as quickly as December to just see how everything's working under there. I've been working on several grants. Some of them are coming due here pretty soon. Everything's going pretty well with those. I talked with Congresswoman Hinson's director of operations and also her district director about a BRIC grant that I met with Homeland Security about this week. And they said that they would support us with that. And they also said that they would support us as well as they could if we were to have a community project funding request. That would be like a congressional earmark. So since SRF, which is one of the funding mechanisms that we're going to be looking at for funding water treatment plants, other infrastructure improvements, the SRF, State Revolving Fund, comes out of the same pot as congressional earmarks. And SRF is concerned that their pot is going to not be filled because of the amount of congressional earmarks. So in the event that that happens, I want us to be in a position where we already are in the process of asking for earmarks, if that's the way we have to do that game. If they defund SRF.
Did you say BRIC grants?
BRIC, that's Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities. So that is a grant through FEMA for infrastructure projects. Iowa historically has never gotten one because of limitations that we have in the ability to score highly on BRIC grant applications. So this year was the first year Iowa has ever gotten one. And they wanted to start off small. I've been talking with them for a while about this and like strategizing how we could get a BRIC grant. And I found out that some of these things are, we have Belle Plaine problems and then we have larger problems. So one of the problems that Iowa has is the state of Iowa has not adopted the National Building Code updates since 2015. And that automatically penalizes all Iowans from getting these kind of grants because we can't, all of the grants have a scoring system, just like a test in school. And if you automatically get 10 points knocked off because of a thing we can't control, those are competitive nationwide. So even if we have a perfect grant, we already are down to 90 points because we don't have these things in place. So those are some of the, as we work on these smaller things, some of these other things become evident. And then as I talk to Congressman Hinson's staff, I can mention those things to them. This is a state legislature problem, but if you could talk to folks that about getting this building code passed, at least to 2018 standards, then the state of Iowa can qualify for BRIC grants easier. Did that answer your question about BRIC grants? So that's something they're very excited to help us out with. I spoke with Chris Weiss from Homeland Security, who is our guy that's helping us with the wellfield generator. And he said that it's okay for us to get procurement going for that. and he's going to be helping me with that. I don't have a timeline on that yet. So we just had our preliminary conversation and we're going to decide what our game plan is for that. Jay, do you want to talk about the 10th Avenue culvert? Looked pretty good. You got her done.
Much done.
Did a good job. That was a good partnership with the county. They helped us out with that. And I thank Jay for getting that set up. Since we've had water quality complaints around town, I think the council already knows, but I just wanted to say it again for anybody that is watching on YouTube or will watch this, that Homeland Security is has worked with us. We have essentially a task force through them to help us through these problems, and it's going pretty well. And I've encouraged them to maybe have that kind of stuff for other communities, like Osceola is having a lot of problems with water, and maybe that's a thing that they can do. And so out of that initial request, I said, if there's any way that we could just get a bunch of water here, like bottled water, jugs of water, just to show some kind of forward momentum, because all of the engineering and all of the planning and all of the things we've got to do for the well fields and for the water treatment plant, those are going to be midterm to long-term things, and we need some immediate things that we can do. And this isn't, the best option in the world, but it's fantastic. Fairway stepped up and said they would donate water to our community. And so that's available for pickup in City Hall during regular hours, right in front of the clerk's window. And I wasn't sure how it would all work, so I just started kind of small and we scaled it up. So we started off with 4 pallets of jugs and 2 pallets of jugs, 2 pallets of bottles. And then the next one we did 5 pallets. And then the chief, I asked him if we could put some water in the police station. So we got a whole semi-load. So we've been moving that out so they can have enough room in there. But I've talked with Lyle, and we have a partnership with the school, so we can potentially store maybe up to a semi-load down there, so that it's easier for Fairway, so they don't have to take such an effort to do it. So it's
Right.
easier. The easier it is for them, I think the better our partnership will be. And I think that's had some pretty good success. People stop in every day, and sometimes when I'm not here at a certain time, there's a rush, and Ashley and Sandy have to haul some water. Thank you for doing that, but we try to keep it fully stocked all the time. And
Have you gone through the semi-load?
no, we have, I would say 3/4 of a semi-load. There's like probably, we didn't get a full semi-load. That would be like probably 20 pallets. I think we got 18 pallets, but it was close enough. And they all fit in the police station garage for the time being, but I got to get that cleared out. But we'll probably be able to keep 7 to 9 pallets in there during the winter time, because it has to be in a conditioned space. It has to be heated.
Yeah.
And Lyle said we could keep some down at the bus barn. And Jay said we could probably find some spots at the shop if we need to. I don't want to overdo it, but I don't want to not have enough. So they said until further notice, we just keep calling them and they'll keep bringing it.
Very nice.
And Homeland Security said if Fairway gets overextended or they can't, they'll work with someone else. Fairway is just first to jump on it. So it's wonderful. And I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions about anything?
How is the renovations of the annex building going?
That was pretty slow going because we had not received any plans from US Cellular until very recently. So it was hard to figure out where the electrical and the ductwork and all of those things were going to go. They were in there either yesterday or today. I haven't been able to stop in. So it's moving forward as, you know, we were waiting.
Part.
Yeah, we were waiting a long time for those, and I had to call to ask for them. So, yeah, so it's moving as quickly as it can.
And any update on anything for the medical building? Because this is November 1, so the sleep center is
Sleep
out.
center is out. They're going to be removing their signage, and I have a potential tenant that wants to get in there. Sandy has a sample lease agreement. She was gonna, maybe she already gave it to Gage. Gage is gonna look it over, and then I'll talk with that business tomorrow and see when they want to move in.
Is it medical related like we were hoping to get in there?
Yes. Loosely, yeah.
Is
I would say it is.
is it for the whole property or?
It's for one room
Okay,
and access to restrooms, break rooms.
yeah.
So what I kind of envision is, you know, there's a north side and a south side. So if there are clinicians that want to come in and just have an office space or two, they could rent, you know, just like Dr. Fleming did. He had 2 or 3 different suites, and then the sleep center had the other side. There was still room for other people to be in there if we had the notion to do so, and if we could have, you know, Eastern Iowa Sleep Center had the entire building leased, so we didn't really interfere in that. But I'd like to see us get more services in town, and some of the services that used to be here, we've been in discussions to get them back in, like the, you know, county type things back in here, like we used to have ASAC or things like that. So just reaching out and seeing if we can fill that thing up and spread the costs out. The rent can be low enough for everybody to afford to be here, and we can have those services back in town and cover our expenses with the heating and taxes and whatever, and have good services for the community. But hopefully we'll have one starting next week or whenever we can get all that arranged.
Thank you. Anything else for Steve? Agenda item number 14, Mayor Pro Tem's report. A number of us in here attended the downtown walk around, which was on Tuesday the 17th. I think Lyle was there, Judy was there, Sandy was there, I was there, Mitch was there, Steve was there. Okay, so it started out in here, and pretty much everybody in the room knows how it went. But it was kind of a Q&A, good discussion, lasted longer than was on the schedule. And then we had the walk around on Tuesday. Then they were visiting, it was a group from the state. There were 3 state employees, I believe, and 2 Main Street Iowa directors, one from a really small town and another from a bigger town than us.
So Albia and, no, Coon Rapids and Mount Pleasant.
I came in a little bit late, so I didn't hear the introductions in the beginning. And they were visiting Belle Plaine, Van Horn, Urbana, and Shellsburg. Kate had set it up through the Benton Development Group. Last year they did 4 other communities. This year we were one of the ones they visited. So then 2 days later, on Thursday, the 17th or the 19th, Sandy and I went up to Vinton, and they had people come in from all those communities, and they had a kind of a session and gave feedback, what they liked, what they didn't like, and so forth. So there's going to be a report come back to Kate's office in about a month, and I'm sure that we'll be able to see the results of that at that time. So it was really interesting. And on the same day that we went up to Vinton, I went to the landfill meeting in Van Horn that night. So I came back with Sandy and then went back up to the landfill meeting. That's always interesting. Everything's going good financially there. They had the Doug from HLW, and I don't know what that stands for, but the company that's doing the new cell construction, he gave an update on it. So that was probably the highlight, other than just the typical moving of funds and reinvesting funds. And, they're not short of funds. They're doing well. So that's all I have to say about the landfill.
I think the new cell's open now. I think they're using it.
I think they were going to start.
Yeah.
And they had, there was some discussion on what they were going to allow in there and what they weren't going to allow, but they did say that they were going to start and let it kind of start compacting before the winter. So, everything just seems to be going very well there. So that's all I have. Agenda item 15, correspondence, there's none. 16, old business, there's none. There's no residents for comments, so we just need to have a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion for adjournment.
There's a second?
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye.